in partnership with CommSec.
Joining us from CommSec for the first time this morning is Tom Piotrowski. Tom, good morning to you. So it looks like we're getting some positive movement in our stock market. This is ahead of the RBA rate decision today.
Kenny, we're expecting the ASX 200 to kick off with an improvement of a little under 0.2% this morning, and you rightly point out that the highlight of the local calendar will be the Reserve Bank's decision on rates, although it is widely accepted that the central bank will be leaving rates on hold today. It's a question of how the conversation evolves in relation to future rate cuts. You could reasonably expect something along the lines of further decisions being data dependent. We saw an elevated monthly reading on inflation only last week, and the next quarterly reading isn't until the end of October. So that's a fair bit of time in which we'll be having these sorts of discussions. But at this stage, the market's pricing in a 40% probability of a rate cut in November. So that's been wound back a fair bit over the course of the last couple of weeks, and the catalyst in part being that elevated monthly number on inflation. But in terms of what we saw last night in US trade, we saw a move higher that was led by technology stocks, although the gains were anemic because of the discussion around a US government shutdown, which would interestingly prevent the release of some important employment figures at the end of this week, which are arguably some of the most important figures at the moment in terms of the calculations on rate cuts. So notwithstanding that, the Nasdaq was up by almost 0.5%, the S&P 500 was up by 0.25%, and the Dow Jones up by around 0.1%. Noteworthy last night was the slump in oil prices, Kenny. So yesterday we were talking about the biggest weekly gain since June. We saw the biggest one-day decline since June last night in oil prices, down by the better part of 4%. It turns around the prospect of OPEC and allied producers increasing production at their meeting, which will conclude at the end of this week. It's to take place on the weekend. So energy stocks are amongst the worst decliners in Northern Hemisphere trade last night.
Okay, Tom, thanks so much.